Prairie Queen is a brand new disc golf course designed by Eric McCabe, recently installed in West Papillion, southwest of Omaha on 132nd Street. This par 54 course has 18 holes, and each is currently configured with a single teepad and a single target basket. The teepads are all concrete and of a decent large size, and the baskets installed are made by Dynamic Discs. The area beneath the basket is spread gravel on all holes. Hole 1 is a par 3, 312-foot straight shot with a narrow fairway. Out of bounds includes the pond on the left, which is not really much of a factor, and the fence on the right, though your biggest risk is dealing with the thick tall grass and weeds that border the narrow fairway. Hole 2 is a par 3, 280-foot straight shot with a fairway that opens up in two spots on the left, heading up to the basket. You'll again want to be cautious with the tall grass both left and right, and be wary of players coming through the other direction on the left, as hole 2 does edge along hole 17 and 18, which are going the opposite direction, heading back out to the parking lot. Any errant shot coming from them might strike you and vice versa, so be careful. 20 to 30 feet behind the basket is a miniature creek that rollaway or overdriven discs going long might get into. But while it is rough to get a disc down in here, it's still playable. It's not considered OB, and you can easily scramble out of it. Hole 3 is a par 3, 309-foot straight shot, again, with a narrow fairway that opens up wider, closer to the basket. Over the fence on the right is still an out-of-bounds factor on this hole, but another factor is the uphill slope to the basket. So while the distance is 309 feet, it's rather more like 330 feet to get the disc uphill. Hole 4 is a par 3, 299-foot straight shot, again, with a narrow fairway, edged by tall grass left and right, and that out-of-bounds fence line to the right. It plays slightly downhill, and like all these early holes, it has no natural obstacles, so any shot choice is on the table. Hole 5 is a par 4, 424-foot straight fairway shot that curves slightly to the left and has a few open pockets where the fairway widens out. Tall grass and a few tall bushes border this fairway, and the fence on the right is still a factor, of course, for out of bounds. Hole 6 is a par 3, 261-foot hook shot with the basket and the fairway curving out to the right. Out of bounds is the creek on the right, but it's really only a risk if you make it through all the trees that edge the right side. It's very thick through there. Tall grass remains a factor, and shifting directions is a new factor, since this hole faces the opposite direction than the first 5 holes, so if you had a tailwind up to this point, you'll now have a headwind, of course. Behind the basket's plenty of rough, though it won't likely cause any issues with scrambling as it isn't super thick to chuck it out through. Hole 7 is a par 3, 346-foot shot with a slight curve to the right. The creek on the left is out of bounds and is certainly a risk, as the pin position might punish those who throw long. After finishing hole 7, you'll cross the bridge and turn right to get to the tee pad for hole 8. It's a bit of a walk, but take caution at the bridge at this spot because this is in the direct path of play for hole 15. You'll be walking across the bridge directly into hole 15's tee pad path. Hole 8 is a par 3, 331-foot straight shot with a creek out of bounds to the left and a line of scrub trees and a tall hill to the right. Right-hand backhand is a good option here, going over the hill and hyzering down towards the basket, though inaccuracy might punish the player as the tall grass is pretty thick over there and it's difficult to find a disc on the right side. Hole 9 is a par 3, 234-foot hole with a huck over the creek. It's one of my favorite holes on the course. The creek is out of bounds as well as over the fence line to the right, though it's unlikely, in my opinion, anyone would choose to throw their disc so far to the right that they would go over the fence. The fairway over the creek is nice and wide, so long as you have the distance to get over the creek, you should have little trouble birdieing this hole. Though new players might be slightly intimidated by the attempt, they might choose to throw further in front of the tee pad, skip the hole altogether, or just go over to the other side of the green and play from there. Hole 10 is a par 3, 346-foot uphill shot with 2 lanes that are split by a patch of tall grass. It's another wide open hole, so all shots are possible, so long as you shoot for accuracy and control and try to stay out of that tall grass. Once you pass the patch and get to the top of the hill, the fairway narrows again and curves to the right, getting to the basket. It's difficult to birdie, as the initial drive is not only uphill, but it's also a blind shot. Once you finish putting, you'll just cross the gravel bridge to the other side for 11, but again, like with 7, be cautious, as you'll be walking directly through the throwing path of hole 13, and even closer at this point. Hole 11 is a par 4, 496-foot uphill blind shot to the pin. Out of bounds is the fence line to the right, which isn't a huge factor unless you have a turned over shot. And of course, tall grass to the left and right. It's about 200 feet to the top of the hill where a split lane patch begins, and you can take options on either side. A blind but accurate distance shot can clear the patch and position you for an easy birdie, so long as you stay out of the tall grass, delaying you in looking for your disc, since at this point you'll have gotten sick of searching for yours. This is also the prettiest hole on the course in my opinion, because the elevation places you in a good spot to look left and see the whole course from here. It's a nice spot to appreciate the scenery and makes the course more enjoyable in my opinion. Hole 12 is one of the rare difficult or risky holes on this course. As a par 3 with 320 feet to the pin, you'll definitely want to avoid the out of bounds pond to the right. Options to hyzer in from the right are aplenty. Players might find it safer to throw further left, landing in a patch of tall grass that is to the left of the basket, where you can go for a reasonably safe bid for putt. Forehands or left-handed players can hang out over the tree on the left and aim for the flat open area that makes up much of circle 1 and 2, or just land in the tall grass and chuck it from there. Hole 13 is a par 3, 239-foot dogleg right shot across a small dried up creek. Trees are aplenty, but there are gap choices, and as long as you can clear the gap, you should be safe onto the other side, even if that's in the tall grass. Discs thrown with enough hyzer should be able to catch edge and skip far enough right to give you a decent bid to either approach or hopefully putt to the basket. Hole 14 is a par 3, 212-foot short dogleg to the right along the water line still. The pond is still an out-of-bounds factor, though this shot has a ton of birdie opportunities. A straight throw right-hand backhand with some turnover might put you into the tall grass, but you'd still be very close to the basket. Forehand shots or lefties will probably have an easy time birdieing this hole. Be careful not to putt too aggressively if the water line is behind the basket from your position, as the grass may or may not stop your disc before it goes into the water. After 14, you'll cross over the creek through a white shipping container covered bridge. It's kind of neat. Hole 15 is a par 3, 383-foot shot over the creek. Water is out of bounds and difficult to recover your disc from, as it's very murky water with plenty of stuff to wade through. Trees obstruct the throw both left and right, so while options aren't limited, this is one of the more difficult holes on the course. Throwers might want to consider higher shots with greater distance if you have the arm for it, or shooting the gap over the bridge and making it through to the other side. Be cautious of other players on this hole, as this is the crossing path I mentioned earlier, where hole 7 goes to hole 8. Look before you throw. If you make it to the other side successfully, the fairway does maintain a nice wide and straight path straight up to the pin. Hole 16 is a par 4, 450-foot shot that goes slightly uphill. Tall grass borders this narrow fairway on the left and right, and this will probably frustrate players again whose throws land outside of the fairway. This is one of the holes on the course that should force players to learn accuracy to gain the score advantage that they're looking for, and to not lengthen the amount of time that they spend at this course for play. Hole 17 is a par 3, 378-foot jaunt with an angled fairway bordered by thick bushes and tall grass. Accuracy is again the primary desire here, as landing in the brush or tall grass will not only punish you again for your time, but also your second throw to the pin might be at a bit of a disadvantage if you are obstructed by bushes. The final hole is a par 4, 450-foot shot with the basket tucked away to the right at the very end, offering a fun challenge for placement of the approach. As with the other holes, watch for tall grass on the left, but the right side is significantly worse as it's both a water hazard and a tall reeds, tall grass situation that players won't want to lose a disc in. Most players will likely aim for the big open patch up the middle of the fairway, then go for a layup into circle 1 on their second shot. As with most of the holes on this course, airborne options are unlimited, the sky is wide open, accuracy is rewarded of course, and you'll probably want to play it safe on your first playthrough until you know the course better. After you finish putting, the path will take you back out to the parking lot, along the left edge of hole 1's fairway if you're facing from the parking lot. So keep an eye out for errant throws from players on T1 and T2. And that's the course. Overall, this course offers players quite a bit. The natural prairie land beauty, despite the warehouse buildings in the background, thanks Amazon, is a welcome addition to the area, as parts of the enjoyment of disc golf, in my opinion, is being in nature. Most disc golf courses are not links style. We certainly don't have that in Omaha. So playing to the natural landscape of the region is the most you can hope for out of a course. And one of the highlights of a good course is the inclination that you could just walk the course as if it were a hiking trail, not even playing disc golf, just to enjoy it as a park. Prairie Queen does have that quality, though I feel the addition of several more trees would amplify and elevate this experience. Of course, trees don't grow instantaneously, so it's reasonable to expect that might take several years before we have natural obstacles like that. In terms of difficulty, since this course is new and wasn't constructed with multiple tees or baskets, it's only got one difficulty setting modulated by players' understandings of the strategy on this course and their ability levels. I would say it's an easy course to achieve par if you're an intermediate player with an average amount of distance on your arm. If you're an advanced player, you'll probably be looking to clinch down on the birdies of the holes that are more difficult to achieve birdie on, and will likely have no issue birdieing the rest of the holes. And of course, there are some ace opportunities here. If you're a beginner or just otherwise haven't honed your playing skills, you might find this course very difficult, or at least frustrating when factoring in the tall grass. Other than that, I think it's a wonderful course. I can't wait to see it grow and be maintained with the fairways being adjusted maybe slightly, helping get some of that scrubby grass to soften up so that the actual mowed green is a little bit softer and not so rough and scrubby. And now that I've covered my opinions on this course and the overview, I ran into a few people on the field, some locals from the area, who I asked what they thought of the course. So here's some of the testimonials.
Finished up 18. I like it. A lot of birdie opportunities. Not necessarily birdies, but birdie opportunities. A lot of potential, a couple more trees, a little more time, some TLC. Be a pretty sweet course.
Awesome. Definitely challenging, especially with all the tall grasses and staying within the boundaries. I think most courses, like Seymour, even Gretna's, like they don't like the boundaries. It's challenging. So
I love this course. I mean, it's a fantastic addition to Omaha, good Denver style. Any intermediate or above player can have a blast out here. It's got some fun, challenging distance shots and a lot of good touchy par threes, which is super fun. The wind makes it so that you actually have to think about your shots rather than just like ripping anything. And yeah, it's a blast. I'm looking forward to once they put a little bit more work into it. Don't have to cross as many fairways. But I mean, for 2 weeks in, doing a great job.
I've lost a lot of discs, but we found them, so it's pretty okay. In my opinion, I like it.
I like the
Scratchy.
aestheticness. It's really nice out here.
It really fits the aesthetic of this side of Nebraska, and it's a new course in an area we don't have one. So it's great because a lot of the people that love disc golf actually live out here, and this is their home course now.
Oh, I like it. Yeah, it's great.
It's pretty tricky.
I'm
a lot
having
of
a
weeds.
blast. But I mean,
Get stuck.
beautiful scenery.
I like the challenge.
Beautiful scenery.
You guys pros?
No.
Yeah.
Just starting out?
Yeah, it's first time.
Freshman makes diamonds.
Who's lost a disc yet? Diamonds? Yeah. Lost a disc?
Yep. Oh, yeah. Dispose of
You lose more? What hole are you on? 11?
What was this,
Or
15?
15?
Hoping to finish strong. He quit.
I think I'm winning right now because I'm the best out of all of us.
He's lying. I can never finish.
It's me.
And that's Prairie Queen Disc Golf Course. If you've played at it and want to express your thoughts on it, comment below. And as always, thanks for watching.